Marcus Aurelius once said, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? In a world where we often cling too tightly to relationships, jobs, even our own expectations, learning to walk away can feel like defeat. But what if walking away wasn't about giving up? What if it were an act of strength, of wisdom, of living in harmony with the natural flow of life? In this video, we're diving into the timeless lessons of Stoicism to explore how to master the art of walking away without regret. Together, we'll uncover how ancient wisdom can guide us through modern challenges, helping us let go gracefully, find peace in our decisions, and move forward with resilience and clarity. So, if you've ever struggled with the fear of letting go or worried about what it means to walk away, stay with me. You're about to discover the tools to face change not with regret but with confidence. Control is at the heart of Stoic philosophy. To the Stoics, our peace of mind is rooted in understanding this simple yet profound truth: some things are within our control and others are not. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, put it plainly: some things are up to us and some things are not. It might sound obvious, but think about how often we struggle against what we can never truly control: other people's opinions, the past, or outcomes that hinge on forces beyond our influence. This struggle is the very source of much of our frustration, anxiety, and regret. So, what is within our control? Epictetus teaches that it's our thoughts, actions, and choices, essentially how we respond to what happens around us. On the flip side, things like the behaviors of others, external events, and the ultimate results of our efforts lie outside the realm of our control. When we fail to grasp this distinction, we can find ourselves clinging to toxic relationships, staying in unfulfilling jobs, or pursuing goals that no longer align with who we are purely out of fear or a misplaced sense of responsibility. Let's break this down with an everyday example. Imagine you're in a relationship that constantly drains your energy. You've tried to communicate, you've shown patience, you've made compromises, but the other person continues to break trust or disregard your needs. In this scenario, you have control over how you approach the situation, your honesty, your boundaries, and your efforts to improve things, but you can't control how the other person chooses to act. No amount of hoping, convincing, or sacrificing can force someone else to change. Once you recognize this, the question becomes: are you willing to let go of what you cannot control to protect what you can, your peace, values, and well-being? This clarity is what gives the act of walking away its strength. Understanding what lies within your power isn't about giving up, it's about channeling your energy where it has the greatest impact. By choosing to walk away from what you cannot influence, you regain agency over your life. You stop exhausting yourself trying to force outcomes and focus instead on living in alignment with your principles. It's worth asking yourself, how often do you hold on to things to avoid regret, when the real regret comes from staying too long in a situation that undermines your growth? Reflect on the times when you've clung to something that no longer served you. What were you trying to control, and what might have changed if you had shifted your focus to what was within your power instead? The Stoics remind us that life is unpredictable and no amount of effort can guarantee outcomes, but what you can guarantee is how you handle the situation. Whether it's walking away from a situation, a person, or even a long-held goal, the decision becomes clearer when you ask yourself, am I holding on because it aligns with my values and I have the power to influence it, or am I holding on to something I was never meant to control in the first place? By internalizing this principle, you free yourself from the chains of unnecessary suffering. Letting go of what's outside your control isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And paradoxically, it's in that act of letting go that you truly reclaim your power. The Stoics believed that impermanence is not something to fear but to embrace. Everything in life, relationships, possessions, status, even life itself, is transient. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations wrote, "Reflect often upon the rapidity with which all things pass away and are no more, the works of nature and the works of men. Such as a whiff of smoke, such as a vapor, are all that is." At first glance, this might seem unsettling, even morbid, but the truth is, this understanding is profoundly liberating. When we accept that all things are fleeting, we free ourselves from the burden of clinging. We stop fighting the natural flow of life and instead learn to live in harmony with it. Think about it, how much suffering stems from our resistance to change. We hold on too tightly to what feels familiar, fearing the void that might come if we let go. But the Stoics remind us that this resistance is futile. The truth is, life is always in motion, and no matter how tightly we grip, nothing stays the same forever. This realization extends to every part of our lives. Relationships evolve, careers shift, even our own identities transform over time. Recognizing impermanence doesn't mean we care less or become detached in a cold, indifferent way. Instead, it teaches us to treasure the present moment fully, knowing that it's temporary. If we're able to appreciate the beauty in something while it's here, and then let it go when it's time, we honor both the thing itself and the natural rhythms of life. Let's consider an example. Imagine you're holding on to a job that you've outgrown. Perhaps it once brought you joy or stability, but now it feels like a weight. You know deep down it no longer aligns with your values or aspirations, but the thought of leaving terrifies you. You're afraid of losing the security it provides or of stepping into the unknown. But when you step back and reflect on the concept of impermanence, you realize that this job was never meant to last forever. Its role in your life may have been essential at one point, but that role has now run its course. By holding on, you're clinging to something that no longer serves you, and in doing so, you're denying yourself the opportunity to grow, to move forward, to embrace what comes next. A shift happens when we accept impermanence. Instead of seeing endings as failures or losses, we begin to see them as natural transitions. Just as the seasons change, so too do the circumstances of our lives. Accepting this truth creates space for us to make decisions not out of fear but out of wisdom. It's what allows us to say goodbye to relationships that no longer bring mutual growth, to walk away from commitments that have served their purpose, and to release attachments to outcomes we can't control. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on how fleeting life is, reminding himself to not waste time clinging to what doesn't matter in the bigger picture. "You could leave life right now," he wrote. "Let that determine what you do and say and think." While this might sound like a heavy thought, it's actually a call to live fully and intentionally. When we embrace impermanence, we stop taking things for granted. We stop clinging out of fear and start choosing out of purpose. The beauty in impermanence is that it sharpens our sense of what truly matters. It teaches us to let go with grace, to appreciate everything while it lasts, and to trust that every ending carries with it the seed of a new beginning. By embracing this truth, we allow ourselves to walk away when the time is right, not with regret, but with gratitude for the time we had and confidence in the path ahead. Detachment, according to the Stoics, is not about indifference or coldness. It's about freedom. Freedom from being controlled by things outside of us, by outcomes, possessions, or even the actions of others. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic thinkers, reminds us, he is most powerful who has power over himself. In this sense, detachment is about reclaiming that power. It's about stepping back from the grip of external circumstances and finding clarity, control, and peace within ourselves. Often, we mistake detachment for a lack of care, but in Stoicism, it's the opposite. Detachment means caring deeply but wisely. It's recognizing that while we can put effort, love, or kindness into something, we cannot and should not be bound to the results. Take a moment to consider how much of our pain comes from fixating on outcomes we can't influence. Maybe you've worked tirelessly on a project only to see it fail. Or perhaps you've poured your heart into a relationship, but the other person didn't respond the way you hoped. These moments can feel like personal failures, but are they really? The Stoics would say no, because once you've done all that's within your power, the outcome is no longer in your hands. Seneca's wisdom on managing desires and expectations is key here. He teaches that much of our suffering comes not from the things themselves, but from the weight of our expectations. We build stories in our minds about how things should go, how people should behave, how life should unfold. When reality doesn't match this idealized version, we feel frustration, disappointment, or even anger. But here's the thing, reality was never guaranteed to meet our expectations. The problem isn't the situation, it's our attachment to how we think it should be. This is where the practice of detachment becomes liberating. Detachment doesn't mean we don't care about success or relationships or meaningful pursuits. It means we approach them with openness and humility, understanding that we can only control our input, never the output. With this mindset, we can walk away when needed, not because we no longer care, but because we recognize the limits of our influence. We can let go of the need to control the uncontrollable and instead focus on living with integrity, doing our best, and then accepting what comes. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine you've been pursuing a career goal for years, a promotion, a dream job, or a major project. You've worked hard, sacrificed, and done everything in your power to succeed. But for reasons beyond your control, things don't pan out. Maybe the market shifts, or someone else gets the opportunity, or the timing just isn't right. In this moment, attachment might tell you to keep fighting, to work harder, or to cling to the hope that things might still change. And maybe at times persistence is the right call. But if you zoom out and recognize that you've done all you can, and the outcome still isn't within your grasp, detachment invites you to find peace. You can walk away knowing that your effort wasn't wasted because it was grounded in a commitment to your values, not in the outcome itself. That's the clarity detachment provides. Walking away with clarity and inner peace requires us to shift our focus from "what did I lose?" to "what did I gain by staying true to myself?" When we detach from external outcomes, we're free to move forward unburdened by what didn't go our way. Detachment gives us the courage to leave behind what no longer serves us and the strength to trust in what lies ahead. So ask yourself, what attachments might be holding you back? Are you clinging to an outcome that's beyond your control? Reflect on Seneca's wisdom. What would happen if you released that grip, if you let go of the weight of expectation? In doing so, you might just find the peace and clarity you've been searching for. Courage, as the Stoics saw it, isn't just about facing physical danger or enduring pain, it's about doing what is right, even when it's difficult. It is a cardinal virtue in Stoic philosophy because living a life aligned with our principles often requires bravery. Courage gives us the strength to act in accordance with reason and wisdom, especially when doing so feels uncomfortable. And when it comes to walking away from situations that no longer serve us, courage becomes essential. It's not easy to step into the unknown, to leave behind the familiar, or to let go of something we've invested time, energy, and emotion into. But without courage, we risk staying stagnant, trapped by fear, and unable to grow into who we're meant to be. Epictetus taught that fear often arises from misjudging what matters. We fear what we'll lose, how others might judge us, or what uncertainty might bring. But the Stoics remind us that what truly matters is our character, our integrity, and our alignment with virtue. Walking away doesn't mean failure. It means recognizing when a situation hinders our ability to live a virtuous life. This act of leaving takes courage because it requires us to trust in ourselves and to prioritize what truly aligns with our values over the comfort of what's familiar. Consider the story of Cato the Younger, a Stoic admired for his unwavering principles and moral courage. During a time when Rome was descending into tyranny under Julius Caesar, Cato refused to compromise his values even when it put him at great personal risk. He stood firm against Caesar's rising power, knowing full well that his resistance could cost him his freedom and even his life. Eventually, when faced with a life under Caesar's rule, something he viewed as a betrayal of his deepest principles, Cato made the ultimate decision to walk away by taking his own life. Now, while that's an extreme example not meant to suggest such drastic action, it highlights the Stoic understanding of courage. Cato valued his integrity above all else, and his choice was a testament to prioritizing virtue over fear of consequences. For him, walking away was an act of strength, a final declaration that he would not live in a way that contradicted his values. In a more relatable context, think about someone choosing to leave a toxic relationship. It takes immense courage to walk away, especially when fear whispers questions like, "What if I never find someone else? What if I regret this decision? What if I'm alone?" This fear of the unknown can paralyze us, keeping us stuck in situations that harm our well-being. But courage gives us the strength to face those fears, to trust that we deserve better, and to let go of what's holding us back. It's not just about leaving, it's about believing in our own ability to rebuild and create a life that aligns with our values. The same applies to walking away from a career that no longer fulfills us. Imagine someone who's financially stable but deeply unhappy with their work. They've dreamed of pursuing something more meaningful, but the thought of losing that steady paycheck or facing the judgment of others keeps them tethered to a job that erodes their sense of purpose. The courage to leave, in this case, isn't about recklessness, it's about trusting in your ability to adapt, to grow, and to find fulfillment in aligning your life with what truly matters. The Stoics would say that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting in spite of it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. Courage is realizing that while the external world may be uncertain, we can trust in our ability to make decisions that honor our values. And when we focus on what's within our control, the choice to leave, the choice to seek growth, the choice to embrace the unknown, we empower ourselves to live fully and intentionally. So, the next time you face a decision about whether to stay or go, ask yourself, what would courage do in this moment? Would it stay out of fear, or would it step forward, trusting in your ability to handle whatever comes next? Remember, walking away isn't about abandoning responsibility. It's about having the strength to pursue a life that aligns with your highest self. When it comes to walking away, one of the biggest obstacles we face is the tug of war between reason and emotion. The Stoics recognized this inner conflict centuries ago, teaching that while emotions are a natural part of being human, they should not dictate our actions. Instead, they believed that reason, our capacity for rational thought, should act as the steady captain guiding our ship. Epictetus framed it this way: "Don't let the force of an impression when it first hits you knock you off your feet. Just say to it, hold on a moment, let me see who you are and what you represent. Let me put you to the test." In other words, the Stoics advised us to pause, evaluate, and respond with clarity rather than reacting impulsively. Think about how often emotions cloud our judgment in moments of decision. Fear, guilt, or even nostalgia can make us hesitate to leave something behind, even when we know deep down that letting go is the right choice. For instance, imagine someone debating whether to leave a long-term relationship that has grown toxic. Emotions like fear of being alone or guilt over potentially hurting the other person can be overwhelming. In situations like this, it's easy for emotions to hijack our decision-making, leading us to stay in a harmful situation simply to avoid short-term discomfort. The Stoics offer a way to navigate these moments by stepping back and inviting reason to take the lead. This doesn't mean suppressing or ignoring emotions. They serve a purpose and often reflect what we care about deeply. But reason allows us to analyze emotions objectively, ensuring that they inform our decisions without controlling them. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his Meditations advised himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. This power lies in our ability to separate the initial wave of emotion from the thoughtful action that follows. Let's ground this principle in a modern example. Picture someone who's offered a promotion at work, but it comes with a significant downside: more hours, more stress, and less time for their family and personal goals. The initial emotional response might be excitement and pride, fueled by the idea of being recognized and rewarded. But under the surface, there's also fear. Fear of turning down the opportunity, fear of what others might think, fear of missing out on career advancement. If these emotions go unchecked, it's easy to imagine this person accepting the promotion without fully considering whether it aligns with their long-term values. Now, if they paused and embraced the Stoic practice of using reason to evaluate the situation, the decision-making process might look very different. They could ask themselves, does this align with what I truly value? Will this bring lasting fulfillment, or will it pull me further away from the life I want to build? By questioning their emotional response with rational thought, they can gain clarity and maybe even the confidence to walk away from the opportunity without regret, knowing it's the right choice for their well-being. The beauty of applying reason in moments like this is that it creates space between feeling and action. You're no longer reacting impulsively to what your emotions demand in the heat of the moment. Instead, you're acting deliberately based on a clear-headed understanding of what truly matters to you. The Stoics remind us that emotions are fleeting. By anchoring ourselves in reason, we avoid being swept away by them and instead make choices that reflect our deeper values. So, the next time you feel trapped in indecision, take a moment to pause, as Epictetus advises. Ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? And more importantly, is it leading me toward the person I want to become or away from that path? By allowing reason to guide us, we can walk away not in frustration or fear, but with confidence and clarity, knowing we've acted in alignment with our highest selves. Freedom, as the Stoics saw it, is not defined by external circumstances but by the state of your mind. Epictetus, who was born into slavery and later gained his freedom to become a renowned Stoic philosopher, spoke extensively about this. His life itself is a testament to the Stoic understanding of true freedom. Epictetus taught that freedom isn't about wealth, status, or power. It's about mastering your inner world. He famously said, "Is freedom anything else than the power to live as we wish? For who lives as they wish except the person who can also live rightly?" To the Stoics, freedom is living in alignment with nature, by which they meant living in harmony with reason, virtue, and the ever-changing currents of life. But how does this idea of freedom connect to walking away? The Stoics believed that attachment, whether it's to people, possessions, or outcomes, often enslaves us. When you cling to something out of fear or dependency, you give away a piece of your autonomy. You may feel trapped in a toxic relationship, beholden to a job that doesn't align with your values, or paralyzed by the societal expectations you think you must meet. Walking away, then, can be a radical act of reclaiming your freedom. It's a choice to release yourself from these bindings, to step out of the cage of attachment, and to live in a way that honors your deeper truth. To understand this better, consider Epictetus' teaching that true freedom comes from focusing only on what lies within your control. According to him, external circumstances like whether someone loves you, whether you succeed in a career, or whether society approves of you are not truly yours. They're part of the external world, subject to fluctuation and change. What you can control, however, is how you respond to these circumstances. By letting go of the illusion that you can control the uncontrollable, you liberate yourself from unnecessary suffering. Walking away in this context becomes an act of freedom because it's a decision rooted in what you have power over, your own actions, thoughts, and choices. Imagine someone staying in a toxic friendship, constantly walking on eggshells to maintain the connection. Over time, this relationship drains their energy and challenges their sense of self-worth. Why do they stay? Because they might fear being alone, losing social approval, or feeling like they've failed the other person. But from a Stoic perspective, the moment they release those fears and walk away, they reclaim their freedom. By choosing to detach from what they cannot control, the other person's actions or feelings, they rediscover their autonomy. They're no longer tethered to a situation that diminishes their well-being, but are free to invest in relationships that align with their values and nurture their growth. This principle applies not only to relationships, but to anything we cling to out of fear or dependency. It might be a career path that no longer resonates with your purpose, possessions that you fear losing, or even outdated beliefs about yourself. Walking away doesn't mean you're abandoning responsibility or giving up. It means you recognize that continuing to hold on is no longer serving you. It's about letting go of illusions and stepping into a life shaped by clarity, strength, and intention. Epictetus spoke of living in accordance with nature, which also means accepting the impermanence of all things. Clinging tightly to what's meant to change only creates resistance and suffering. Walking away, on the other hand, is an act of flowing with life rather than resisting its natural course. It's a way of affirming your inner freedom, of saying, "I will not be ruled by fear, attachment, or things beyond my control." So how can you start finding freedom in walking away? Begin by reflecting on what's keeping you anchored. Is it truly yours, or is it something beyond your control? Ask yourself, does holding on honor my values, or is it a way of avoiding discomfort or fear? By making the courageous choice to walk away when needed, you're not running from life. You're stepping into the deep, enduring freedom that comes from living in harmony with your highest self. Regret often feels like a heavy weight, a lingering voice in the back of our minds whispering, "What if?" But what if regret wasn't inevitable? What if the way we see a situation could transform not only how we act, but also how we feel about those actions after the fact? The Stoics believed this was possible, and one of the most powerful tools they offered for avoiding regret is the practice of shifting perspective. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations reminds us that events themselves are neither inherently good nor bad. It's how we interpret them that gives them meaning. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This idea ties directly into regret. Often, regret isn't about the event itself, whether it's leaving a relationship, a job, or even declining an opportunity. Instead, regret comes from the story we tell ourselves about that event. If you frame your decision to walk away as a failure or a loss, it's likely to feel like one. But if you choose to see it as a necessary step toward growth, freedom, or alignment with your values, the narrative changes entirely. Think of it this way. Have you ever looked back on a decision that initially felt painful but later realized it was the best thing you could have done? Maybe at first you felt the sting of discomfort, the uncertainty, the fear of having made the wrong choice. but over time, as your perspective shifted, you began to see how that decision created room for something better. This is the power of perspective in action. The Stoics teach us to apply this principle not only in hindsight but in the moment itself, so we can make peace with our choices as we make them. Here's a practical example of how this works. Let's say you're deciding to leave a job that no longer fulfills you. The fear of regret might creep in, fueled by questions like, what if I can't find something better? What if this turns out to be a mistake? But a Stoic would encourage you to pause and examine these thoughts through a different lens. Is leaving inherently good or bad, or is it just an event, a neutral fact until you assign it meaning? Instead of focusing on the unknowns, you might reflect on what walking away represents. A commitment to honoring your values, to listening to your inner self, and to creating the life you want. Framing it this way doesn't erase the challenges, but it does prevent regret from dominating your mindset. The Stoics also suggest using perspective to see the bigger picture. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself of how small our individual concerns are in the grand scheme of the universe. This isn't to diminish your struggles, but to help put them in context. Ask yourself, will this decision still feel monumental a year from now, 5 years, 10? By zooming out, you might realize that walking away isn't the end of your story. It's just one chapter among many. This broader perspective can ease the emotional intensity of the moment and help you approach your decision with a sense of balance and clarity. Another helpful practice is reframing what you're walking toward, rather than focusing only on what you're leaving behind. When you leave something behind, it's easy to dwell on feelings of loss, but shifting your perspective to what you're gaining, a chance for renewal, growth, or alignment with who you are, invites hope and purpose into the equation. For example, leaving a relationship might feel like closing a door, but it also gives you the freedom to open new ones, including the one that leads to deeper self-discovery. Ultimately, the Stoic practice of shifting perspective reminds us that regret is not an unavoidable consequence of walking away. It's a product of how we choose to interpret our actions. By learning to see events as neutral and reframing them in a way that aligns with our values, we can leave situations not with lingering doubt but with peace of mind. So, when you find yourself at a crossroads, remember this: the lens through which you view your choices will determine whether regret takes root or whether you move forward with clarity and purpose. You have the power to choose that lens. When the Stoics talk about decision-making, they always bring it back to one central idea: virtue. For the Stoics, virtue isn't just an abstract concept or a lofty ideal, it's the foundation of a good life. Virtue, they believed, is the ultimate measure of whether an action is right or wrong. And when it comes to walking away, this principle becomes a guiding compass, helping us make choices that align with who we truly are, rather than being swayed by fear, impulse, or external pressure. So, what does it mean to align our decisions with virtue? In Stoic philosophy, virtue is often broken down into 4 key pillars: wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. Each of these plays a crucial role when we're faced with tough decisions. Wisdom helps us see the situation clearly, removing the emotional fog that can cloud judgment. Courage gives us the strength to act even when the path is difficult or uncertain. Justice ensures that our actions are fair, both to ourselves and others, and that they serve the greater good. And self-discipline keeps us from being pulled off course by fleeting desires or the temptation to take the easy way out. Let's take a closer look at how these virtues can guide us. Imagine you're weighing whether to leave a job that feels misaligned with your personal values. Wisdom might prompt you to step back and evaluate the situation logically. Does this role support the kind of person you want to be? Does it contribute meaningfully to your life or the lives of others? Courage might be what you need to face the uncertainty of leaving. to step into the unknown with faith in your ability to navigate what's next. Justice may call you to consider whether staying in the role is fair to yourself, to your mental health, to your integrity. Finally, self-discipline might help you resist getting stuck in a cycle of overthinking or procrastination, motivating you to take the necessary action for your well-being. The beauty of using virtue as your guide is that it simplifies decision-making in even the most complex situations. When you strip away the noise and distractions, you're left with one essential question: does this choice honor my values? If the answer is yes, then it's the right choice regardless of how difficult or uncomfortable it may feel in the moment. And if the answer is no, the Stoics would encourage you to walk away with confidence, knowing that acting against your values will ultimately lead to far more discomfort than the temporary unease of letting go. Reflecting on virtue is also a powerful way to avoid the nagging doubt of regret. When your actions stem from a place of integrity, you can find peace in knowing you've done what's right. Even if things don't turn out as you hoped, the Stoics remind us that the outcome is beyond our control. What is within our control is whether we acted with honor, courage, and wisdom, and that's what truly matters. Now, here's something to consider as you evaluate your own choices. Are you acting in alignment with your values, or is your decision being influenced by fear, convenience, or external expectations? It's a tough but essential question. For instance, if you're staying in a relationship, job, or situation simply because it feels easier than leaving or because you fear what others might think, is that truly aligned with who you are? On the other hand, if walking away serves to protect your integrity, your peace, and your ability to live authentically, then isn't that the more virtuous choice? One of Marcus Aurelius' most enduring reminders was to waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. In other words, don't overcomplicate it. Let virtue, your commitment to wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline be your guide. When you choose to act in accordance with these principles, walking away becomes not just an option, but an expression of your highest self. Stepping back and seeing the bigger picture is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics understood that much of our suffering comes from getting caught up in the narrow view of our immediate concerns, whether it's the fear of letting go, the uncertainty of what lies ahead, or the emotional weight of walking away. But when we broaden our perspective, when we look beyond ourselves and our individual situations, we begin to see that our struggles are just a small part of a much larger tapestry. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on this cosmic perspective, writing in his Meditations observe always that everything is the result of change, and get used to thinking that there is nothing nature loves so well as to change existing forms and to make new ones like them. To him and other Stoics, understanding the interconnectedness of all things helped ease the burden of holding on too tightly to one moment, one choice, or one attachment. This idea of interconnectedness starts with recognizing that we are just one small part of something infinitely vast. Marcus Aurelius invites us to imagine the scale of the universe, how its scope stretches far beyond our individual lives, our personal dilemmas, and even our planet. He reminds us that, in the grand scheme of eternity, our problems, no matter how overwhelming they feel in the moment, are fleeting, even insignificant. This isn't meant to downplay our experiences or emotions, but to offer comfort. The things that weigh heavily on us today often lose their grip when we recognize how temporary and small they are in the context of the whole. For example, think about a difficult decision to walk away from a long-held friendship. The emotional weight of such a choice can feel overwhelming. Guilt, sadness, and fear might take center stage. But applying a cosmic perspective can help reframe the situation. Instead of focusing solely on the immediate pain, you might realize that the relationship was one chapter in a much larger book, both yours and theirs. People's lives are constantly evolving, shifting, and intersecting in ways we can't always predict or control. Walking away doesn't erase what the friendship meant. Instead, it acknowledges that change is part of the natural flow of life. Seen in this way, walking away feels less like an ending and more like an evolution. The Stoics also teach us that by viewing ourselves as part of a greater whole, we can alleviate the fear of letting go. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You are a soul carrying a corpse," reminding us that much of what we cling to comes from an attachment to temporary, material concerns, things that don't ultimately define us or our purpose. When we see ourselves as part of the natural order, we begin to understand that life itself is defined by cycles of beginnings and endings. Every decision to walk away creates space for something new to emerge, just as the changing of a season allows for renewal in nature. This perspective also connects us to something greater than ourselves, a sense of shared humanity, responsibility, and purpose. When you realize that your actions ripple outward, affecting not only your own life but the lives of others and the broader world, your choices take on a different meaning. Walking away from something doesn't isolate you. It aligns you with the flow of life and the interconnectedness of all things. The Stoics believed that each of us plays a role in this greater whole, and when we act in harmony with it, by accepting change, letting go of attachments, and making decisions rooted in virtue, we contribute positively to this vast web of existence. So, the next time you're grappling with the difficulty of leaving something behind, take a moment to zoom out. Ask yourself, in the grand scheme of things, how significant is this decision? Will it matter a year from now or 10 years from now? And how might letting go not only serve your growth but also align you more closely with the natural rhythms of life? Marcus Aurelius reminds us that life is change. By embracing this truth and seeing yourself as part of something far bigger, you can find the strength to walk away not with fear or regret, but with a sense of peace and trust in the greater whole. One of the most practical and transformative exercises in Stoic philosophy is Premeditatio Malorum or the premeditation of adversity. The idea is simple but powerful. By imagining potential challenges and difficulties before they happen, we can prepare ourselves mentally and emotionally to face them more effectively. While this might sound like dwelling on negativity, the purpose of this practice is not to create fear or anxiety, but to build resilience, foresight, and a clear mind. In the context of walking away from something, whether it's a relationship, a job, or a life path, this exercise can be a vital tool to help you navigate the inevitable uncertainty and emotions that arise. The Stoics believed that by envisioning things that could go wrong, we reduce their power over us. Seneca put it this way: rehearse them in your mind, exile, torture, war, shipwreck. All the terms of our human lot should be before our eyes. This doesn't mean we should constantly live in a state of dread. Instead, it's about inoculating ourselves against shock. If we've already considered the difficulties we might face, they lose the element of surprise, and we're better able to respond calmly and rationally when they arise. So, how can Premeditatio Malorum be applied to the act of walking away? Start by sitting quietly and picturing the process of letting go. Visualize the challenges you might encounter. For instance, if you're leaving a long-term relationship, you might imagine moments of loneliness, the awkwardness of disentangling shared responsibilities, or the possible judgment of others. If it's a job, perhaps you foresee financial uncertainty, self-doubt, or having to explain your decision to friends and family. Whatever it is, allow yourself to walk mentally through these scenarios one by one. Next, reflect on how you might respond to each situation. What resources, both internal and external, could you call upon? Loneliness, for example, might be addressed by strengthening your support system, reconnecting with friends, focusing on hobbies, or investing time in yourself. Financial uncertainty could be mitigated by planning ahead, budgeting, or seeking temporary work while you transition to something new. Judgment from others might become easier to handle if you remind yourself that their opinions are outside your control, a core Stoic teaching. By rehearsing these possibilities in your mind, you give yourself clarity and confidence, knowing that you have strategies to meet each challenge should it arise. But Premeditatio Malorum isn't just about strategy, it's also about building emotional resilience. When you reflect on worst-case scenarios, something surprising happens. You begin to see that even the worst outcomes are rarely as catastrophic as they seem. The act of imagining them takes away their power, making them feel manageable rather than overwhelming. This is often the key to walking away without regret. Fear of the unknown can keep us stuck, but by facing those fears head-on, we diminish their hold over us. This exercise also fosters foresight. Walking away is rarely a single moment, it's a process, and challenges don't end the instant you make the decision. Premeditatio Malorum helps you anticipate these longer-term hurdles. For instance, after leaving a toxic relationship, there might be times when nostalgia clouds your memory, drawing you back toward what you know isn't healthy. By preemptively reflecting on this, you can prepare for it. You might remind yourself of why you chose to leave or focus on the positive opportunities that walking away has created. Ultimately, Premeditatio Malorum is about empowering yourself. It's not about expecting the worst, but about becoming ready for it, should it come. The Stoics believed that resilience isn't born from avoiding adversity, but from facing it with courage, reason, and preparedness. So, as you consider walking away from a situation in your life, take a moment to practice this exercise. Sit quietly, visualize the road ahead, reflect on the challenges you might face, and remind yourself of your ability to overcome them. This doesn't just prepare you for the journey, it strengthens your resolve and reminds you of the inner strength you already possess. The Stoics understood that the key to navigating life's challenges often lies in the conversations we have with ourselves. They saw self-reflection as an essential practice, a way to sharpen the mind, clarify values, and make decisions with integrity. One of their most powerful tools for fostering this inner dialogue was journaling. Seneca, the great Roman Stoic, urged us to question ourselves daily, reflecting on our actions, thoughts, and decisions. He famously wrote, "When the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent, I examine my entire day and go over what I have done and said. I hide nothing from myself, I pass nothing by." This practice of daily reflection isn't just about revisiting the past. It's about preparing for the future, ensuring that the choices we make are grounded in wisdom and honesty. When it comes to walking away from something, a relationship, a job, or even a deeply held belief, honest self-reflection becomes critical. It can help us separate fleeting emotions from enduring values, ensuring that our actions align with who we truly want to be. After all, walking away is rarely a simple decision. It often comes with questions, doubts, and a sense of inner conflict. That's why asking ourselves the right questions, as Seneca advised, can bring clarity to even the most complex situations. Imagine you're considering leaving a long-term friendship that has become one-sided and draining. Through self-reflection, you might begin by asking, why do I want to walk away? Is it because this friendship no longer aligns with my values or well-being? Or am I acting out of frustration or resentment that could be resolved through communication? By honestly examining your motives, you can determine whether walking away is an act of self-care or whether it's a reaction to temporary emotions. Seneca's advice encourages us to uncover the real reasons behind our actions, not just the surface-level justifications we sometimes tell ourselves. Journaling provides a structured space for this dialogue. Writing down your thoughts forces you to slow down and truly engage with what's on your mind. It can help untangle complex emotions and reveal patterns that might otherwise go unnoticed. For example, if you're considering leaving a job, journaling might help you recognize recurring frustrations, perhaps the work conflicts with your values, or the environment affects your mental health. Seeing these concerns written down can bring clarity and even validation, helping you recognize that your decision isn't impulsive but thoughtful and necessary. But self-reflection isn't only about identifying challenges, it's also about preparing for the consequences of your choices. Walking away doesn't mean acting recklessly or dismissing responsibilities. It's about making a deliberate, honest decision while considering the potential impacts on yourself and others. Seneca's practice of questioning yourself encourages you to ask, have I done everything within my power to address this situation? Have I communicated openly and fairly? Have I considered how this decision aligns with my long-term values? By answering these questions honestly, you can walk away with the confidence that you've acted responsibly and in alignment with your principles. Inner dialogue also helps us confront fear and regret before they arise. Often, the hesitation to walk away stems from the fear of making the wrong choice or feeling regret later. But when you've reflected deeply, when you've explored your motives, weighed the consequences, and aligned your decision with your values, you equip yourself with the assurance that you've acted intentionally. Even if challenges arise afterward, you can hold onto the clarity that your choice was made with wisdom and care. So, how can you start incorporating Stoic self-reflection into your life? Begin by setting aside a few quiet minutes each day, either to journal or to engage in a meaningful inner dialogue. Ask yourself, what am I holding on to that no longer serves me? Why am I hesitant to let go? Have I done everything within my control to address the situation? And does leaving align with my values? Approach these questions with honesty and without judgment. In the end, self-reflection isn't just about decision-making. It's about cultivating a deeper understanding of yourself. And when you have that understanding, walking away becomes not just an act of closure, but a step forward, one made with intention, wisdom, and a sense of peace. As Seneca reminds us, the most important questions are the ones we ask ourselves. Walking away doesn't have to mean slamming the door shut or carrying bitterness with you. In fact, the Stoics would caution against harboring resentment or malice when we leave a situation. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations reflected deeply on the importance of kindness and forgiveness, even toward those who may have wronged us. He wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil, but I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and I recognize that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own." For Marcus, walking away with grace wasn't about excusing bad behavior. It was about understanding human nature and not letting others' actions poison your own peace. When we leave situations or relationships, it's tempting to dwell on what went wrong. Maybe it's a friendship where you felt unappreciated, a romantic relationship where trust was broken, or a job where your efforts went unnoticed. These experiences can leave deep emotional marks and, if we're not careful, stir up feelings of resentment or anger. But the Stoics remind us that carrying those feelings does more harm to us than to anyone else. Harboring malice doesn't solve anything, it binds us to the very thing we're trying to let go of. Instead, Stoicism teaches us to cultivate goodwill as we walk away. This doesn't mean pretending everything is fine or suppressing valid feelings of hurt. Rather, it means approaching the situation from a place of understanding and forgiveness, recognizing that everyone is imperfect, ourselves included. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that people act out of ignorance or confusion, not because they are inherently bad. By reframing the actions of others in this way, we can release ourselves from the grip of resentment and leave with a sense of peace. Let's ground this in a modern example. Imagine you've decided to leave a job where your manager has consistently undervalued your contributions, leaving you frustrated and disheartened. It's easy to feel bitter, replay past grievances in your head, and let those emotions color your departure. But what would the Stoics do? First, they would focus on what lies within your control, your own choices and actions. You might not control how your manager treated you, but you can control how you choose to respond. Walking away with goodwill might mean leaving with a firm but polite conversation, thanking them for the opportunities you've had to grow, and choosing to focus on the future rather than the shortcomings of the past. This isn't about excusing poor behavior. It's about freeing yourself from it, refusing to let that negativity follow you into your next chapter. Or consider a personal relationship, perhaps a friendship that has grown toxic. Maybe the other person has been unkind or dismissive, and you've come to realize that this relationship no longer supports your well-being. Walking away with malice might look like a heated argument, cutting off all ties abruptly, or harboring lingering anger toward them. But walking away in the Stoic way means reflecting on the good the relationship once brought into your life, accepting that people change, and choosing to wish them well even as you part ways. By focusing on forgiveness and understanding, you leave the relationship not as a victim but as someone who values peace over conflict. The key takeaway here is that forgiveness is not something you give for the benefit of the other person, it's something you give to yourself. It's a way of unburdening your mind and ensuring that you're not carrying emotional baggage into your next endeavor. By walking away without malice, you honor your own inner peace and integrity. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. In other words, the most powerful way to move forward is with kindness and clarity, leaving bitterness behind and focusing on the opportunities that lie ahead. So, as you consider any decision to walk away, ask yourself, can I leave this situation with compassion for both myself and others? Can I let go of resentment and move forward lighter and more open to what's next? By embracing this Stoic principle, your departure becomes not just an ending but a step toward wisdom and freedom. One of the greatest hurdles to walking away, whether it's from a job, a relationship, or a long-held dream, is the fear of how others will perceive us. What will they think of me if I quit? Or will they see me as weak or selfish for leaving? These thoughts can loom large in our minds, often keeping us stuck in situations long after we've realized it's time to move on. But the Stoics offer us a powerful antidote to this fear, the reminder that external opinions are beyond our control and therefore irrelevant to our peace of mind. Epictetus, the freed slave turned philosopher, taught this lesson with remarkable clarity. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, true growth and wisdom often require us to tune out the noise of public opinion. For the Stoics, the opinions of others were categorized as externals, things outside of our control, just like the weather or the actions of other people. Epictetus constantly reminded his students that focusing on things we can't control is a recipe for frustration, anxiety, and yes, fear of judgment. What we can control, and what truly matters is our own judgment, our ability to reason, to act in alignment with our values, and to make decisions we believe are right. When we let the fear of judgment influence our actions, we essentially hand over the reins of our lives to others, allowing their opinions to steer our course. But as Epictetus points out, that's no way to live freely or virtuously. Imagine someone who realizes they've outgrown their career. They know that staying in their current role is no longer fulfilling, but every time they think about leaving, they're paralyzed by the worry of what their colleagues or family might think. Will they think I'm a failure? Will they think I'm irresponsible for walking away from security? This inner dialogue creates an invisible cage, trapping them in a life that no longer feels authentic. The Stoics would counsel this person to shift their focus inward, away from the noise of external judgments, instead of asking, "What will others think of me?" The question becomes, am I acting in accordance with my own principles and values? Is this decision aligned with what truly matters to me? Here's an actionable way to apply this principle in your own life. Start by clearly defining your values, what you stand for, and what truly matters to you. When you anchor yourself in your values, the opinions of others lose much of their power. Their judgments, after all, are based on their perspectives, biases, and priorities, not your own. Epictetus reminds us that people often judge without understanding the full picture, and their opinions are shaped by their own limitations, not by your reality. Why then should we give their perceptions so much weight? Another practical technique is to practice selective hearing, not just in conversations but in your mind. When you catch yourself worrying about what others might think, pause and challenge that thought. Ask yourself, do their opinions change the reality of who I am or the values I've chosen to live by? Most times the answer is no. This simple mental exercise reinforces the Stoic mindset, helping you refocus on your own path rather than being distracted by the expectations of others. Walking away with confidence means carrying the understanding that not everyone will agree with your decisions, and that's okay. The Stoics teach us that we can't please everyone, nor should we try. Instead, what matters is whether you can look yourself in the mirror and know that you've acted in a way that aligns with your character. Epictetus would remind us that no amount of external approval can replace the peace of mind that comes from listening to our own reasoned judgment. Ultimately, overcoming the fear of judgment isn't about ignoring others completely, it's about prioritizing what's most important: your integrity, your values, and your ability to act in accordance with them. When you shift your focus inward, you'll find that the weight of others' opinions begins to fade, and with that newfound freedom, you can walk away from anything that no longer serves you, not with hesitation, but with confidence and clarity. One of the greatest barriers to walking away is the weight of the past, the decisions we've made, the mistakes we carry, or even the time and energy we've invested in something that no longer serves us. We cling to these things, replaying old memories or second-guessing past choices, as if doing so might somehow change the outcome. But here's where the wisdom of Stoicism offers us profound relief. The past is already gone. It cannot be changed, revised, or undone. The only thing we can control is how we think about it and how we choose to move forward. Epictetus reminds us, it is not events themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about them. This applies not just to external events today, but also to those that lie behind us. Mistakes, disappointments, or even moments of triumph, none of them exist anymore except as thoughts in our minds. The Stoics teach us that clinging to the past is like trying to hold onto water with your hands. No matter how tightly you grip, it will slip away, leaving you with nothing but frustration. Wisdom lies in releasing the past and turning your attention to what you can influence, the present moment and the choices you make now. Let's take a practical example. Imagine someone who has stayed in a career for years because of the time and effort they've invested in it, even though they know it's no longer fulfilling. They might think, I've already spent this much time here. If I leave now, all that effort will be wasted. But this is an illusion. The Stoics would argue that the years you've invested are gone, no matter what you decide today. The energy you've already spent can't be reclaimed, but the energy you have right now can be directed towards something better. By letting go of the attachment to what cannot be changed, you free yourself to make choices that align with the person you are now, not the person you once were. Marcus Aurelius offers a beautiful perspective on this idea in his Meditations. Don't let your reflection on the whole sweep of life crush you. Don't fill your mind with all the bad things that might still happen. Stick with the present situation and ask yourself why it's so unbearable, and you'll be embarrassed to answer. Often, when we cling to the past, we trick ourselves into believing that what we've lost or the mistakes we've made define us. But the Stoics remind us that we are not our past, we are the sum of our choices in the here and now. The only thing that can shape your future is how you choose to respond in this moment. Clinging to past mistakes is another way we weigh ourselves down. Perhaps you've made a poor decision that led to regret, maybe staying in a failing relationship too long, missing an opportunity, or making a choice that hurt someone else. But beating yourself up over these mistakes helps no one. The Stoics teach us to take ownership of our actions, learn from them, and then let them go. Epictetus said, "What's done is done, it's over, let it go." The point is not to ignore your mistakes, but to release the emotional baggage that keeps you tethered to them. By reflecting honestly on where you went wrong, you gain valuable insight, and then you move forward lighter, wiser, and ready to make better choices. One way to practice this detachment is through a Stoic meditation on impermanence. Take a moment to reflect on the idea that everything in the past, both good and bad, is already gone. Close your eyes and visualize the past as a flowing river, events and choices drifting downstream, impossibly out of reach. You cannot bring those waters back to you, but you can decide how you navigate the waters ahead. By meditating on this image, you might find that your grip on the past begins to loosen, replaced by a sense of freedom and clarity. Letting go of the past is not about forgetting or dismissing it, it's about giving yourself permission to live fully in the present. The Stoics remind us that the past is a fixed point, unchangeable and no longer within our control. But the present is yours, and it's only when you release your attachment to what's behind you that you can fully embrace the opportunities and growth that lie ahead. So ask yourself, are you holding on to what is already gone? And more importantly, what would it feel like to finally let it go? The Stoics believed that living a fulfilling life meant living in alignment with nature. But what does this actually mean? To the Stoics, nature wasn't just about the natural world around us. It was about understanding the essence of who we are, both as individuals and as part of the greater whole. Living in alignment with nature means acting in harmony with your own purpose, staying true to your values, and contributing meaningfully to the interconnected world we all share. It's about recognizing what feels authentic to you and choosing to live in a way that reflects your true self. This idea of aligning with nature is central to Stoicism because it provides a framework for making decisions, including the decision to walk away. Walking away often feels like a loss, leaving behind a path we've invested in, a relationship we've nurtured, or a role we've identified with. But the Stoics remind us that sometimes walking away isn't about leaving something behind. It's about returning to what feels natural. It's about stepping back into alignment with the kind of life we're meant to live. Take a professional example. Imagine someone working in a high-paying corporate job that, on paper, seems like an incredible opportunity. They've climbed the ladder, achieved status, and gained financial security. But deep down, they feel disconnected. The long hours and endless meetings leave them drained, and they've lost the sense of meaning they once sought. They find themselves wistfully thinking about the creative work they abandoned years ago, a dream they set aside in favor of stability. From a Stoic perspective, this person is out of alignment with their nature. While the job provides external rewards, it doesn't reflect their deeper purpose or what truly matters to them. Walking away from the corporate world might be the harder path, but it represents a return to what feels authentic. to the work that inspires them and allows them to contribute their unique talents to the world. The same principle applies to personal relationships. Imagine someone in a long-term partnership where they feel stifled, as though they've lost sight of who they are. No matter how much effort they put in, the relationship no longer supports their growth or aligns with their values. Leaving might feel like failure or betrayal. But from a Stoic perspective, it could represent something else, a courageous step toward living in harmony with their true self. By choosing to walk away, they honor not just their own nature, but also the truth of the relationship, allowing both people to pursue paths that better reflect who they are. The Stoics would ask you to consider, are you living in alignment with your nature, or are you forcing yourself into roles, situations, or expectations that feel foreign to who you truly are? Authenticity for the Stoics wasn't about indulging fleeting desires or whims. It was about consistently acting in a way that aligns with your virtues, your values, and your unique purpose. Walking away is often part of this process. It's the act of shedding what doesn't belong in order to make space for what does. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations emphasized the importance of returning to what is true and natural. He wrote, "If something is in accordance with nature, it is within reason to accept it and embrace it, but if it is not, then you must let it go." This deliberate letting go is key. It's not about acting impulsively or running away from discomfort. It's about making thoughtful, intentional choices that bring you back to what feels real and meaningful. So how can this Stoic principle guide your own decisions? Start by reflecting on what genuinely feels aligned with your values, talents, and long-term goals. Are there parts of your life, whether in work, relationships, or daily habits, that feel forced or unnatural? If so, what would walking away look like? And more importantly, what might it allow you to move toward? By choosing what aligns with your nature, you're stepping into a life of authenticity and integrity, a life that reflects not just what you do, but who you truly are. Walking away from something significant, a relationship, a career, or even a long-held dream, is rarely easy. It often brings with it a storm of emotions, sadness, uncertainty, guilt, even fear of the unknown. The Stoics understood that emotional pain is a natural part of life, but they also believed that we have the strength to endure it. This strength is called resilience. And when it comes to walking away, emotional resilience is what allows us to face the discomfort head-on, process it, and move forward without feeling defeated. Seneca, one of Stoicism's greatest thinkers, offered a profound perspective on resilience. Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. To Seneca, hardships weren't something to avoid or fear. They were opportunities to cultivate inner strength. Every challenge, every moment of emotional discomfort was a chance to practice resilience and become stronger for it. When you're able to see hardships this way, not as obstacles but as the natural trials of life, you begin to shift your mindset. Instead of trying to escape pain, you learn to endure it, adapt to it, and ultimately grow from it. Let's bring this into the context of walking away. Imagine leaving a relationship that once meant the world to you but has now become a source of pain or stagnation. It's natural to feel conflicted, to question whether leaving is the right choice, and to ache from the loss of what once was. But emotional resilience helps you approach this pain differently. Instead of being overwhelmed by it, you acknowledge it, accept it as a necessary part of the process, and use it as a catalyst for growth. Seneca would remind you that enduring pain isn't a sign of failure, it's a sign of strength. So, how can you build this kind of resilience? The Stoics believed that resilience isn't something we're born with, it's a skill we develop through daily practice. One powerful way to cultivate resilience is through what Seneca called *voluntary discomfort*. This involves deliberately exposing yourself to small, manageable difficulties to train your mind and body to handle greater challenges. For example, you might practice going without certain comforts for a short time, skipping a meal, taking a cold shower, or spending a day without your phone. These small acts of discomfort teach you that you're stronger than you think and that you can endure more than you might expect. Over time, this builds a mindset of endurance and adaptability, which proves invaluable when facing larger emotional hurdles. Another daily practice for resilience is reframing your perspective on pain. When you feel the weight of walking away, remind yourself why you made the decision in the first place. Reflect on the values that guided your choice and the better life you're moving toward. Pain, in this context, isn't a punishment, it's a sign that you're growing, that you're stepping into a chapter that better aligns with your true self. By reframing pain as part of the process of transformation, you can begin to navigate it with a sense of purpose rather than resistance. The Stoics also recommended journaling as a way to build emotional resilience. Writing down your thoughts and emotions allows you to process them in a structured, reflective way. It helps you create distance between yourself and your feelings so you can evaluate them more objectively. For example, if you feel overwhelmed by sadness after walking away, journaling can help you explore why you feel that way and remind you of the reasons for your choice. Over time, this practice strengthens your ability to face and work through difficult emotions without being consumed by them. Finally, remember the Stoic principle of focusing on what is within your control. You can't control the fact that pain accompanies walking away, nor can you control the reactions of others, but you can control how you respond to that pain, whether you let it deepen your resilience or allow it to paralyze you. By choosing to face emotional discomfort with courage and a sense of purpose, you reclaim your power and reinforce your ability to handle future challenges. Walking away isn't easy, and it's not supposed to be, but the emotional resilience you build by enduring the discomfort is what allows you to walk forward not with regret but with strength. As Seneca reminds us, the difficulties we face today are the training ground for a stronger, wiser mind tomorrow. So embrace the process, knowing that each step, no matter how painful, brings you closer to the life you're meant to live. The unknown can feel like a vast, intimidating space. Whether it's the uncertainty of leaving a familiar relationship, a career you've built over years, or even a city you've called home, stepping into the unknown often stirs up fear, doubt, and anxiety. The Stoics, however, saw uncertainty not as something to dread, but as something to accept, even embrace. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reflected deeply on this inevitable aspect of life. "Never let the future disturb you," he wrote. "You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." In other words, while the future may be uncertain, your ability to face it, your courage, your reason, your values remains constant. Walking away, then, is not about controlling the outcome, but about trusting yourself and the natural order of life. The Stoics believed that much of our anxiety about the future comes from trying to predict and control what lies ahead. We create mental scenarios, imagining every possible challenge or failure, and then we become paralyzed by our own thoughts. But Marcus Aurelius reminds us that this is wasted energy. The future is not ours to control, it hasn't even happened yet. What is within our control is how we prepare for and respond to what comes. Walking away from something doesn't require knowing exactly what's next. It requires faith in your ability to handle whatever the future brings. Consider the decision to leave a job that no longer aligns with your values. You might worry about the uncertainty of finding a new position, whether your finances will be stable or if the career change will live up to your expectations. The natural instinct is to hold on to what feels secure, even if it's making you miserable, simply because the unknown feels riskier. But the Stoics would encourage you to shift your focus. Instead of obsessing over all the what-ifs, they'd ask you to reflect on what you know, that your current path no longer serves you, that you have the tools and resilience to adapt, and that uncertainty is not inherently bad. It's just a part of life's flow. Walking away in the face of uncertainty is also an act of trusting in yourself. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the strength that lies within each of us, writing, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. By letting go of the need to control every detail of the future, you allow yourself to focus on what matters, your values, your principles, and your ability to respond thoughtfully to what unfolds. This mindset transforms uncertainty from something to fear into an opportunity for growth. It's a chance to explore new possibilities and to discover strength you didn't know you had. The Stoics also saw the unknown as part of the natural order. They believed that life unfolds according to a larger plan, one that's beyond human comprehension. This doesn't mean resigning ourselves to helplessness. Rather, it's about recognizing that change and uncertainty are woven into the fabric of life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "All things are interwoven with one another. A sacred bond unites them. There's scarcely one thing foreign to another. For all have been arranged together in their places and together make up one harmonious whole." By trusting in this natural order, we can release the need to micromanage the future and instead walk forward with confidence, knowing that our role is simply to act virtuously and adapt to whatever comes our way. So how can we begin to embrace uncertainty? One practice is to remind yourself, as Marcus Aurelius did, that you've faced challenges before and emerged stronger. Think back to a time when you took a leap into the unknown, whether it was starting a new job, moving to a new place, or even making a difficult decision. At the time, it might have felt overwhelming, but you found your footing. You adapted, just as you will again. By reflecting on your past resilience, you can strengthen your trust in your ability to handle the future. Another Stoic exercise is to visualize the worst-case scenario and realize that even if the unknown doesn't unfold perfectly, you have the tools to endure it. Epictetus reminded his students that it's not external events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. By reshaping your perspective, you can reduce the anxiety that often accompanies uncertainty. Instead of focusing on what could go wrong, focus on the opportunity to live in alignment with your values and trust that, no matter what, you'll meet the future with the strength and wisdom you possess today. Walking away is one of the most courageous acts we can take because it requires trusting in ourselves, in the process of life, and in the natural flow of change. It's a reminder that while we may not control what lies ahead, we do control how we step forward. By embracing uncertainty, we make room for growth, transformation, and experiences that we might otherwise have never encountered. Trust yourself, trust the process, and walk forward knowing that you are prepared for whatever comes next. Loss is an unavoidable part of life, but the Stoics saw it not as something to fear or dread, but as one of life's greatest teachers. They understood that every loss, whether it's the loss of a person, a role, or even a version of ourselves, is an opportunity for growth and transformation. Seneca, in his letters, wrote extensively about grief and loss, offering wisdom that resonates deeply even today. He reminded us that while loss is painful, it is also a reminder of life's impermanence, of the fragility of all things, and of the importance of focusing on what truly matters. In his letter to Lucilius, he wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Seneca's point is clear. Loss forces us to confront life's brevity, and it challenges us to live more intentionally. When we walk away from something, a relationship, a career, or a chapter of life, It's natural to feel a sense of loss. We grieve what once was, what could have been, or the time and energy we invested. But in the Stoic view, loss isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of greater understanding. Every loss clears a path for reflection, for asking ourselves meaningful questions. What have I learned from this? How has this experience shaped me? What do I want to carry forward, and what am I ready to leave behind? In this way, loss becomes not just an absence but a space for renewal. Seneca, in his reflections on grief, spoke about how we tend to dwell on what is gone, fixating on the void left behind, but he also encouraged a shift in perspective. Instead of mourning endlessly, he suggested that we focus on the value of what we've experienced. Even when something is no longer a part of our lives, its impact remains with us. For example, if you're walking away from a long-term relationship, the initial sadness might feel overwhelming. But over time, with reflection, you might come to see the strength you gained, the lessons you learned about yourself, or the deeper understanding of what you truly value in connections with others. What once felt like an unbearable loss begins to reveal its role as a teacher. Loss, according to the Stoics, also reminds us of the practice of gratitude. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not lament in advance. Take full account of what you will lose and reflect that it is precisely these very things which give life its sweetness." The Stoics teach us to find joy in the transient nature of life, to appreciate the beauty of moments even as they pass. Walking away from something doesn't erase the value it brought into your life. Those experiences remain a part of you, shaping your character, deepening your resilience, and offering insights that guide your next steps. Let's consider a more specific example. Imagine someone walking away from a career they've spent years building because they've discovered it no longer aligns with their values. The loss might feel like a personal failure or waste, but through the Stoic lens, it's also an opportunity. That career likely provided skills, connections, and insights that they can carry with them into whatever comes next. By focusing on what is left behind, the lessons, the growth, the clarity, they can begin to see the loss not as an ending but as a transformation. When we embrace this idea, the act of walking away becomes a powerful tool for self-discovery and renewal. It's not easy. Loss will always carry some level of pain, but it's also a chance to recalibrate, to turn inward, and to ask, how do I want to use this experience to become better, wiser, and stronger? The Stoics remind us that while loss is inevitable, how we respond to it is entirely within our control. By focusing on the value in what we've left behind and the lessons it offers, we transform our losses into building blocks for the person we are becoming. So, the next time you face the challenge of walking away, remember Seneca's wisdom. Loss is not the end, it is simply a beginning disguised as an ending. What you do with it is up to you. When faced with the decision to walk away, emotions often rise to the surface, demanding our attention. Fear, guilt, anger, or even nostalgia can cloud our judgment, pushing us toward impulsive choices that may not serve our long-term well-being. But the Stoics teach us that acting out of emotion without the guidance of reason often leads to regret. Instead, they emphasize the importance of living in accordance with virtue, using wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline as the guiding principles for our actions. When we allow virtue to lead, we make decisions not from fleeting feelings but from a place of clarity and alignment with our higher selves. Imagine this scenario. You've been in a job for years that no longer aligns with your values. Every day, the work feels more draining, and you know in your heart that it's time to leave. But then fear creeps in, a fear of uncertainty, fear of disappointing others, fear of financial instability. These emotions can feel overwhelming, urging you to stay in a situation that's comfortable but no longer fulfilling. Now, consider the Stoic approach. Instead of reacting to fear, you pause and ask yourself, What would courage and wisdom recommend in this situation? Courage might remind you that growth often requires stepping into the unknown. Wisdom might help you see that staying in an unaligned role out of fear is ultimately a disservice to yourself. By grounding your decision in virtue rather than emotion, you can walk away with confidence, knowing that your choice reflects your values and integrity. Emotions, while natural and important to acknowledge, are often fleeting and unreliable when it comes to making big life decisions. The Stoics, including Epictetus, would argue that while feelings can inform us about what's happening internally, they shouldn't dictate how we act. He wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Acting in accordance with virtue means stepping back, examining the situation with reason, and responding in a way that aligns with your principles rather than letting emotions take the wheel. Let's look at another relatable example. Imagine you're in a friendship that has become toxic over time. Perhaps the other person has repeatedly shown disrespect or undermined your boundaries. Anger might tempt you to lash out, to burn the bridge entirely in a moment of frustration. On the other hand, guilt might push you to stay in the friendship, ignoring the harm it's causing. But the Stoics would encourage you to consider the situation through the lens of virtue. What would justice and self-discipline call for here? Justice might remind you to respect yourself enough to leave, while still parting ways with kindness and understanding rather than resentment. Self-discipline could help you resist the urge for dramatic confrontation, encouraging instead a calm, rational conversation that reflects your character. By acting virtuously, you walk away with dignity, free from the turmoil of emotional reactivity. This doesn't mean suppressing or denying your emotions. They're a natural part of being human. Instead, the goal is to create a space between feeling and action, allowing reason and virtue to guide your response. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on this practice in his Meditations, writing, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. The emotions you experience when walking away are outside your control, but your response, whether you act impulsively or with deliberate intention, is entirely within your power. So, how can you apply this in your own life? When emotions run high during a difficult decision, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, are my feelings fueling this choice, or am I acting in alignment with my values? Does this decision reflect wisdom, courage, justice, or self-discipline? By grounding your actions in virtue rather than emotion, you can walk away not with regret but with a sense of integrity and peace, knowing that you've chosen the path that truly aligns with who you are. As you consider the act of walking away, it's essential to pause and reflect on what truly matters most to you. What are your core values? What kind of life do you want to lead? The Stoics believed that clarity in decision-making begins with understanding your deeper priorities, the things that give your life meaning and purpose. Without this reflection, it's easy to get swept up in the noise of day-to-day life, making decisions based on fear, convenience, or the expectations of others rather than what aligns with your true self. This is where the Stoic practice of Memento Mori, remembering mortality, can serve as a powerful guide. The phrase Memento Mori translates to remember that you must die. At first, it might sound grim, but for the Stoics, it wasn't about dwelling on death. It was about sharpening your focus on life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do and say and think. This wasn't a call to be reckless or morbid. It was a reminder to prioritize what truly matters, to strip away distractions, and to live with intention. When you acknowledge that your time is finite, choices like walking away from something that no longer serves you become clearer. You realize that staying in a situation out of fear or inertia is, in essence, wasting the most precious resource you have, your time. Reflecting on mortality isn't meant to induce despair, it's meant to inspire clarity. Ask yourself, if I only had a limited amount of time left, how would I want to spend it? Would I choose to remain in a job, relationship, or environment that stifles my growth, drains my energy, or goes against my values? Or would I choose something more aligned with the person I aspire to be? The Stoics remind us that life is fleeting, and by keeping this truth in focus, we can make decisions that honor what's most important to us. To bring this reflection closer to home, consider the story of a sculptor who spends years perfecting their art but is commissioned to create pieces that don't feel meaningful. They might continue on this path out of obligation or to maintain financial stability, but over time they begin to feel disconnected, as if their work no longer reflects their passion or purpose. One day they ask themselves, if I only had 1 year left to sculpt, what would I create? This question forces them to confront their values, authenticity, creativity, and leaving behind work that inspires others. With this clarity, the decision to walk away from empty commissions and pursue their true passion becomes obvious. The weight of fear is replaced by the drive to honor their time and their purpose. The same exercise applies to all of us. What would your life look like if you let go of what no longer aligns with your values? What opportunities could you pursue? What relationships could you nurture? And what kind of person could you become? Memento Mori isn't about rushing or chasing after fleeting desires. It's about using the knowledge of life's impermanence as a lens to focus on what truly matters. It encourages us to make bold yet thoughtful choices and to free ourselves from anything that detracts from living authentically. So take a moment to reflect. What are your core values? What principles guide your life? Perhaps it's integrity, growth, connection, or kindness. Whatever they are, keep them at the forefront of your mind as you navigate decisions. Whenever you face the choice of walking away, ask yourself, is staying aligned with what matters most to me, or is it simply the easier, more familiar path? Remember, the Stoics teach us that life's brevity is not a curse but a gift, a reminder to live fully, intentionally, and in alignment with what we hold most dear. If you can prioritize what truly matters, every step you take, even the difficult ones, will feel like a step toward a life of purpose and peace. Walking away without regret is not about running from life's challenges or avoiding discomfort. It's about making deliberate choices that align with your values, your well-being, and your sense of purpose. It's about understanding when holding on begins to harm more than it helps, and recognizing that letting go can be an act of both courage and wisdom. As we've explored today, the Stoics offer timeless principles to guide us in these moments of decision. First, they remind us to focus on what is within our control. As Epictetus taught, our peace of mind comes from directing attention to our own thoughts, choices, and actions, rather than obsessing over external outcomes or other people's opinions. This perspective empowers us to walk away not out of fear or frustration, but with clarity and confidence, knowing we've done what is within our power. Next, the Stoics teach us to embrace impermanence. Marcus Aurelius continually reflected on the transient nature of all things, reminding himself that change is a natural part of life. By accepting that relationships, careers, and circumstances evolve, we can learn to let go gracefully, appreciating what was while making space for what could be. We also discussed the importance of aligning with virtue, acting in accordance with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. When your decisions stem from these guiding principles, regret becomes less likely because you've made choices that honor your highest values, rather than being driven by fleeting emotions or external pressure. And finally, the Stoics encourage us to trust in our resilience and ability to face uncertainty. While the unknown often feels daunting, it is also where growth and transformation happen. As Seneca said, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Walking away doesn't have to mean failure. It can represent a step towards something better, something that reflects who you are becoming. As we conclude, I invite you to take a moment to reflect on your own life. Is there something you're holding onto that no longer serves you? Are there paths you've hesitated to leave out of fear or habit? Think about how these Stoic principles might guide you toward a decision that feels true to yourself. Remember, walking away is not about what you're losing, it's about what you're making space for. Let me leave you with this powerful quote from Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The strength to walk away, the strength to hold onto your integrity, and the strength to embrace life's uncertainties. All of it begins with the way you choose to think and act. If today's insights resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your reflections in the comments. What lessons from Stoicism stood out to you? And if you'd like to deepen your journey into Stoic philosophy, consider subscribing to stay connected as we continue exploring these timeless teachings together. Thank you for spending your time here, and remember, the path forward is yours to shape wisely, courageously, and always with clarity.